Oh, you waited. I'm so sorry. I stayed up late working on the handouts, and then I hit the snooze button a couple times too many. Couldn't find my car keys, started late. I'm just so glad that you stayed. I'll tell you what, I'll take attendance after you get started with your handouts, and I'll just get right to the handouts so we can make up time. Now, I know I made the handouts. Where did I put them? They should be right here. No, those are for my next class. Well, that is not a very organized person. Believe me, I know that was me. I actually did something like that in a class I was teaching. So believe me, I am qualified to teach this lesson on organization and time management because I have had to train myself so that I did not perform in that way. I do have handouts for you, and I do know where they are. They're right here. Being disorganized, or you're just unable to find the time that you need for all the different activities in your life, is not who you are. It's a result of the choices that you make on how you do things. Now that's important for you to realize and to admit to, because Stephen Covey in his 7 Habits of Effective People, my salvation in this regard says that until you're able to say, I am where I am because of choices I have made, you can't choose to be otherwise. So just admit it. You've made wrong choices. Now you can change what you choose to do, and you can become more organized and a better time manager. Now then, disorganization. Why is organization and time management connected? Well, to begin with, if you're disorganized, you're wasting time. You're looking for things. Where did I put it? When did I have it last? You're paying bills late. You're, believe me, I know. I've been that way. Now, what happens in an organized person? Well, I've got my sources. Very organized people that have been around me, and a lot of this stuff I'm sure that you've heard since you were tiny tots. I had too. I just chose not to do it. But when you do make those choices, it will improve your life. Number 1, a place for everything and everything in its place. Now then, I've heard that from my mother since I was 3 or 4 years old. But it's true. If you don't have a place for something, then you'll never know where to find it. Number 2, never put anything down if it's not where it belongs. Because the result is you're going to have to come back later and pick it up because it's not where it belongs. And at that time, you may not remember where you laid it down. So always remember that. Now, it's easier said than done. That means you have to be aware of what you're doing. So if someone comes in and questions you or interrupts you or asks a question, you can't totally focus on them and put down what you're doing, because it may not be where it belongs, and then you won't be able to find it. You have to be aware of what you're doing with your things. Oh, let me give you an example. Now this is my bag. It's a very big bag. I like big bags. It does not have any of those compartments. That is like too organized for me. All right, it's like forced organization. I'm not very well with that. But it is big. And for me, it is organized because I have several smaller bags inside. I have family pictures in a picture. I have a wallet, carries my money and my IDs and things. I have a little bag for odds and ends that would be loose and I wouldn't be able to find in this big bag. I have a pencil case. Pencils, erasers, ink pens, Correcto ink, everything like that. All my banking stuff. So, it is organized in my own way. However, keys were a problem. You can imagine how much time I spent digging in this purse for keys. Well, someone gave me the idea. These little clips. These are my school keys, and these are my car keys. Okay, wherever and whenever I leave my car, I clip this somewhere. If I'm carrying this bag, I clip it on my bag. If I'm carrying a camera case, I can clip it on the camera case. I clip it on a strap. I've even, when I wasn't carrying anything, hooked it on my bra strap. It'll work. But then I have my keys. Now then, the next thing in organization is to have a backup plan. Believe me, no matter how organized you become, there's still going to be times when you misplace things. Let's be honest. So, for my backup plan for my keys, I have a set of keys on a magnet under the fender of my car, so I can get in if I lock myself out. If I can't find my keys at home before I leave, I have another set hanging on the door on a little hook. So if I can't find them, I use those and then put those back on the door and then I look for my other ones later. Okay, so disorganization wastes time. It's a loss of concentration. All that morning in that example I gave you, was I at any time thinking about the class I was going to teach? Was I reviewing the points I wanted to make? Did I check to see if I had the handouts? No, because I was late, because I couldn't find my keys, that was all I was thinking about. Now then, being disorganized also costs you in self-confidence. Now, how confident am I going to be to teach that class the next time? And how do I think my students, what they expect of me after that performance? So it's very important that you become as organized as possible. Now, don't try to organize everything in your life overnight. And it doesn't work either. And you'll get discouraged. Try one area of your life at a time. Maybe it's school. Get school organized. Maybe it's your kitchen. Maybe it's the bedroom closet. little pieces at a time, and get the routine down of what you need to do every time before you start trying to do everything at once. Now, time management in general, there's been a history of what people have done to try to manage their time. There's notes and checklists. Now, these can be very helpful in the grocery store or running errands. But the problem with a checklist is that we usually start from top to bottom and work our way down. We don't put items on the checklist based on their importance, but when we think of them. So we may put something very important like pay the light bill today before it gets cut off, or electricity gets cut off, at the bottom of the list. And if we check off things from the top, we may not get to the bottom, and then it's too late. We're in the dark. Then people started having calendars and appointment books. Now, I've tried this too. These work for writing down when the appointments are scheduled. However, if that's the only time you look at the calendar, it's not going to help you get to the appointment on time or on the right day. It still comes down to choices of how we use our time management tools. After calendars and appointment books, it became evident that we needed a way to prioritize things that were on our list, to put the most important things on the top so that we could do those and not have our electricity turned off. And then we figured that everything on the list, if it was important enough, even if we didn't do it that day, the next day it's still on the list, it's still important, and it would move up higher. It would be more important tomorrow that we get it done. And in that way, we would take care of the important things. If it wasn't important, it might even fall off of the list and it not make that much difference. However, if you live your life that way, you're always doing things that must be done or should be done today. They have to be done today. You're under stress, and that's not good for your health. It's not good for your life or your happiness. So let's see if there's a better way. The fourth way I want to just give to you is preserving and enhancing relationships and accomplishing results in every area of your life. One of your handouts is a matrix that shows where everything that you do can be placed on this matrix. The horizontal axis is urgent and not urgent. Everything you do can be placed in that category, somewhere along a continuum, of course. But urgent could be you have gangrene in your foot and they need to amputate. It also could be a ringing telephone. How many of us can ignore a ringing telephone? Not urgent might be your blood pressure. You've got high blood pressure today and you may have it a long time, but eventually it's going to cause you serious problems. All right. On the vertical axis, you have important and not important. We can have very important telephone calls, and I know we've all been in situations where we were waiting, a birth of a baby or results from tests. Not important. Well, I don't use the telephone very much for not important. When I grew up, we had a party line. We had 9 people on the same line. And my father was very strict about when I called anyone, why I called, and how long. I had to have a purpose. I asked the question, and I hung up after I got the answer. That was it. But today, I don't know if you have a teenager, they're on the phone all the time, and all of those can't be that important. Okay. Where do you want to spend time on this matrix? In order to be a wise time manager, you need to spend most of your time in quadrant number 2. This is the planning, the designing, the research, all the things that have to be done before action is taken. Now, if you're just starting out, we all have 24 hours. How are you going to get more time in this number 2 quadrant? Well, the urgent and important things we can't bother. They are urgent, they need to be done now, and they're important that they be done now. So, the only quadrants that we can really get things out of, is to be out of the 3rd quadrant, which is not important and urgent, and not important and not urgent. And the matrix here will explain what some of those things are. But in order to get time from those quadrants, we have to learn how to say no. And for many people, that's very hard. I'm a pleaser. I think people will like me if I do what they ask, if I cooperate. And that's okay. I like being mad, but it does take up a lot of time. So, you have to learn how to say no. At the beginning, I wasn't very well practiced at it. And I just couldn't get the word no out of my mouth. So when people would ask me to be a chairman for a committee or take a class or babysit, I couldn't say no. So what I would say is, I'm not sure I can do that. Let me get back to you. So I didn't actually say no, but it gave me time to think about it and base my answer and express myself in a way that would be not upsetting to that person, and that helped them understand where I was coming from. So just say, I'm not sure, let me check and I'll get back to you. All right. Now then, another way to find time. I know I thought I didn't have any time, but I've included in your packet a time log, and it just says an activity. All right, breakfast. I started breakfast at 6:30, got finished at 6:15. That'd be 15 minutes. Did I plan to do that now? Yes. Notes. It was healthy. Okay. Everything you do, write it down. How long did it take? Did you plan to do it now, or is it something that sprung up you weren't expecting? Just try this and see where there are gaps of time that you're not using to help you in getting everything done that you want to be done. Now, as I said, the 4th part of time management was also considered preserving and enhancing relationships. Many people can be organized and manage their time for their profession. Or there may be people that are wonderful parents, but their profession takes a second seat, and they're not reliable on the job. Your life needs to be balanced. So the first thing you do is think about the roles you have. Roles that you have in life. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I'm now a grandmother. I have a new grandbaby, 2 weeks old. I'm a teacher. I'm a student. I'm a Christian, and I belong to a local denominations church in our community. And there are professional associations that I have. And I'm friends with neighbors. All of these are roles that I have in my life. And I need to balance all of those roles. So, the next thing in your packet is an example of a filled out weekly schedule. Over here, on these big arrows, he has written down his goals, his roles, his personal development, his father-husband role, and then his different roles at his work. And then he's a chairman for the United Way. So you would write your roles out here. Now, the next thing, he has left space for goals. Okay? For each one of those roles, you need to think of at least 3 goals. Sometimes they're long-term, they could be intermediate, or they could be short-term goals. But you need to have goals for each one of the roles in your life. For example, on personal development, he has a draft a mission statement, register for a seminar that he wants to attend, visit Frank in the hospital. Okay, now then as husband and father, there's Carla's class, Tim's science project, Sarah's bike needs attention. Okay, so you do this, you write goals for each one of the roles that you have. Alright, now then, you take these goals and put them on your week's schedule somewhere. That way, within this week's time, you have paid attention to each one of the goals in your life, each role that you play, and it's balanced, and no one is being ignored. You won't end up with your children going off to college and you don't really know them, and they don't know you. Okay? This, I think, is very important, to balance out everything, all the demands in our lives. Now, of course, when you do it this way, you're going to have to adjust. Doctor's appointments get canceled. Somebody falls down and breaks a leg. Things happen. Snow days. But the idea is to start out the week, plan for every goal, every role in your life, and keep it balanced. Now, how do all these tips on organization and time management apply to you? Now, it's my understanding that you are what we call a non-traditional student. And I have experience in that area as well. I graduated from SIU in 1973 with a bachelor's degree. And then, 15, 20 years later, I went back to SIU to get a teacher's certificate. And as it turned out, after I got my certificate, I continued in curriculum and instruction and I got my master's degree at the same graduation ceremony as my daughter got her master's degree. So I have been a non-traditional student as well. And believe me, I understand that's a little bit demanding and scary, and you haven't been to school in a long time. The teachers have changed, the students have changed, they now have computers. It's a big, big challenge, but it's wonderful to participate in, to take the opportunity, and it keeps you young, I think. So, how does being organized apply to a student? Now, just like in general, all these tips I learned from very organized people and at a very young age, and I just didn't do any of the tips. A lot of student organization tips I learned in kindergarten, and I'm sure you did too. But now you have to brush up on that and start doing those things again. You need a school bag, some kind of bag. It doesn't matter. I don't care if it has handles and wheels and is very expensive and has all kinds of zippers and pockets. Or it could just be a tote bag. It could even be a plastic bag from Kroger's. Anyway, it needs to be a bag where you keep all of your supplies, everything that you're going to need for your schoolwork. Should be able to carry your textbook, your note papers, pencils, papers. They now have those tiny little staplers, erasers, everything that you need. Dictionary. Put it in your bag. Now then, the trick and the value of the school bag is that when you take things out, you put them back in. If you do your assignment with your textbook while you're watching TV, don't just lay your textbook then on the table or the coffee table. You've got to put it back into your school bag. That goes back to our rule about not laying anything down unless it's where it belongs. Then, in kindergarten, our teacher gave all the students a folder. So I apply this to my life. I'm not in classes right at this time, but I teach different classes. And for each class, I have a folder. And they have pockets. On one side are papers the students give me, and on the other, I put the papers that I'm going to give the students. So if they give me a test paper, it's over here. When I grade it, I record the grade, and then I put it over here to return to the student. Sounds simple, doesn't it? I would advise, this one doesn't have it, but I would advise that you get a folder that has pockets as well as the prongs, because then if you get papers from your teacher on class meeting times, scheduling, class requirements, you can put those in the folder for the class as well. The next problem I think most students have when they come back to school after several years is note-taking. First of all, you may not have been writing with a pencil and paper for years. There's that spelling issue. You can't write. You may not understand what the teacher is talking about. How can you understand what's important? And I guess you have to write down every single word, and that's not possible. So this is what I did, and it seemed to work for me. I tried to read in the textbook the assignment material before class. Then I would, now reading, what do I mean by reading? This is not reading the newspaper reading. And it's not reading the new Twilight series reading. This is active reading of material that usually is not really a page turner. Usually it might want to put you to sleep when you're trying to read it. So how you read it is important. You have to actively read this to learn. So what do I mean by that? Before I read a chapter, I scan the chapter, go over it page by page. It's kind of like a sneak peek of coming attractions. It lets you know what that chapter is about. So then you don't get in that situation where you read 3 pages and then you figure out, oh, that's what he's talking about. And then you have to go back and read the first 3 pages again in case you missed something important. Okay, look at the pictures, look at the charts, look at the headings. No, there's going to be 3 sections, and each one is about, what is each section about for this topic. Okay? Then as I read, I take notes on what I'm reading. Now I personally outline. You know, with the Roman numerals and the capital letters, and then the small letters or numbers or whatever. But you don't have to outline. You can use diagrams, connect things. You know, those I call them spider diagrams. Put a circle in the middle, that's the chapter, and then the lines for each section, and then important facts connect to each line. You can make it all in different colors, whatever you like. The important thing is that in learning, our brain works best when information is scaffolded. It's connected. You need to connect it with something you know, or make it familiar to you. So I found it very helpful to read the material in the textbook before class. And I also wasn't concerned about saving paper. I only used one side of the page, and I left plenty of space between sections and between facts. And there's a reason for that, I'll tell you later. Now then, we come into class. I always tried to get there early because I wanted to be concentrating and thinking about the class and not hurrying and rushing, not to get killed, running a red light and running, and do I have everything that a disorganized person might go through. I want to be organized. I want to have all my materials. I don't have to worry about it. Everything's in my book bag, and I want to get to class early. Then as I'm sitting there in class, I get out my notebook, and there's my outline of the material that we're going to go over today. It's the first day of class, and I've got the first chapter outlined. Now, what do I do when I'm taking notes? Well, if the teacher is using that textbook, hopefully, if you're lucky, he's going to start with chapter 1. Sometimes they don't, so you're on your own. But he will give you a syllabus, and he will tell you what chapters are going to be covering the next days. But that first chapter is not wasted because you understand what is in that book and what the text is going to be showing you and how the text is set up. You know how it's divided in section. You know whether they outline. You know if they put the vocabulary words in bold print. You know that already from reading that chapter ahead of time. Now then, if you're lucky, and he does do chapter 1, you don't have to write down every word. He's going over the chapter. Now, if he tells you something that you had in your outline, all you have to do is underline it or put a star by it and make some kind of notation that he mentioned it in class. Now, to me, that means that I thought it was important when I read the chapter. My teacher thought it was important because he mentioned it in his lecture. So it might be important enough to be on a test, and that would be something I'd want to study. Now then, another thing teachers put in their lectures are examples. And of something. So I mean, you may have the topic in your outline already, but he's adding to more important information or more individualized specific information that can help you connect it to something that you already know. So all you have to do is write the examples down, because you've already got everything else in your outline. And the space that you've left makes it easy for you to write something and stick it in the right place where it applies. Another thing about notes is that you probably should use a loose leaf notebook that you can pop open and like this. This will allow you to add things, maybe handouts the teacher gives you that applies to the notes that you've already taken, and you can open this up and put them in at the right place, so that if you're studying your notes and you remember the handout, you don't have to go find it. It's right there in your notes. Now then, tomorrow's class comes. It's now Tuesday. We're in our second class period. Again, I have arrived in class with all my supplies, everything I need, and I'm early. What do? I get my notebook out. I reread the notes from yesterday. Now I think this is like, you might compare it to going swimming. Okay? The class hasn't started yet. There's no pressure. You can ease in one little toe at a time. You can read it again. If you don't remember, you don't understand something today that you thought you had yesterday, you might make a note to ask the teacher a question about it before he starts. Things like that. Okay? It's not like just diving in over your head when he starts teaching and you're starting cold, and it's hard to connect what he's saying today with what he said yesterday if you don't remember what he said yesterday. So I always like to review my notes from the day before. Then I knew where I had been and I was ready to go forward. How many of you learned how to add and subtract with flashcards in the second grade? You know, that's a great technique. Get some index cards. Write your vocabulary words or different facts that you need to remember. Sometimes the memory work is pretty hard for us after we've been out of school for so long. And I tell the truth, I can't even remember people's phone numbers anymore because I've got them programmed in my phone. But if it's something you're going to have to remember for the class, put it on a flashcard. Then carry those flashcards, maybe not in your school bag. Carry the flashcards somewhere that's going to be with you wherever you are. I would put them in my big duffel bag. Guys could put them in their jacket pockets or something. Have them with you. Then that way, when you're waiting in line, you can whip out those flashcards and go to three or four at a time. You can, while you're waiting at the dentist office, or the doctor's office. Go over those flashcards. Maybe there's a presidential press conference on TV that's taking your show off television for half an hour. You whip out those flashcards and you've got something to keep you occupied till your program comes back on. Now when you schedule your classes in a college, you don't get to take the classes when you want them. You have to take them when they're offered. And many times you'll have breaks in the day of an hour, maybe 2 hours at a time. Now, remember, time management and being organized are choices. So what you do with those times, those breaks, whether you run off campus to McDonald's, or if you go shopping, that's one choice. Another choice might be to go to the library or go to the computer lab. Do the research on the project you know that's coming up. It's not due yet, but you've got time now to do it. Why not do it? And then always remember that it's easier to keep up than to catch up. You need to do the reading ahead of time. You need to do the practice with each lesson when it's assigned. You need to keep up with every day's activities. And that will help you retain the information that you're trying to learn. And another thing is that you'll learn never to procrastinate. I have always found that it's when I procrastinate is when the disasters happen. My computer crashes. My printer is out of ink. Thank goodness Walmart is now open 24 hours a day. Several times I've gone to get ink for my computer at 2 or 3 in the morning. Don't put yourself in that situation. Don't procrastinate, because that's always when things go wrong. Do it ahead of time, no problems. Easy sailing. Easy, a lot easier to say than do, believe me. And then I don't want to leave you in a situation where you're thinking, I can't do this, this is too much. Remember, you can eat an elephant. And how do you do that? You buy one bite at a time. Take one step after another. Okay? Let me give you some encouragement. All these things, and remember, most of these things I got from Stephen Covey's book, The Habits of Highly Effective People, and on the internet. You can search time management skills or organization tips. You might find some that you like better than mine, but these have worked for me. But I found this on the internet, and I thought it was very good. Carter Scott's Rules of Life. Well, there were 10 of them. I liked 8, so I gave you 8. 1, you will receive a body in life. Love it or hate it, it's yours, so you might as well accept it. Rule number 2, life will present you with lessons. Don't we all know that? Rule number 3, there are no mistakes, only lessons. So we learn when we fall, when we fail. And that's a lesson that we learn and that we can go on. Rule number 4, the lesson is repeated until learned, as many times as necessary. This is the one that really throwed me. Oh, if I had learned that the first time, I wouldn't have had to make these same mistakes over and over again. But always know the lesson will be repeated. Rule 5, learning does not end, and I'm an example of that. Going back to school, changing jobs, getting retrained for new equipment on the job, taking a photography class after retirement. Learning never ends. Okay. And then rule number 6, there's no better than here. It may look greener on the other side, but we don't know what else is over there that might be dangerous or harmful. There is no better place than right where you are right now. Rule 7, others are only mirrors of you. You see others as you see yourself. Rule 8, what you make of your life is up to you. And that's one other thing. I think it was from Maya Angelou. I heard it on Oprah. I hope I get this quote right, but I really liked it. She said one time, you did the best you could with what you knew. When you know better, you can do better. So hopefully these tips will help you know better. Now, for the rest of the time in class, take out the time log. And just start it for today. Log every activity that you've had so far today, and get up to where you've watching a time management class for 50 minutes, and then continue on and finish it out for the day. And you're free to make copies. The assessment. I'm not very good on assessment. I think assessments many times don't assess what you were supposed to have learned anyway. It might assess your ability to write a paragraph or to make a PowerPoint presentation or your ability to give a speech before a class. But I don't think any of those things really assess your knowledge of the material that you were there's many ways that you could learn that material. The only and best way to assess this, I think, is that you assess it. You try these tips yourselves. It doesn't matter whether I think they work. It's whether you think they do. So try them. See if they help in any degree. If not, don't stop. Get on the internet and look up and find other tips. There's as many different ways, to do things as there are people. And these are just the ways that have helped me. And I thank you very much.